what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2016 Chrysler 300C Platinum. Up front is a 5.7 liter V8, and down below is an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this 300C for two reasons. First of all, this is the Platinum, which in 2016 was the highest trim level you could get here in the 300 platform, and so it's always exciting to drive the top dog. But the second reason is that I'm actually filming this vehicle on the outskirts of Detroit, Michigan, where Chrysler is headquartered, and where this car really came to be. Although it was built in Canada, it was a brainchild of Michigan, and so I'm excited to not only talk about the 300 back in 2016, but talk about modern Chrysler and what's changed ever since. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form, takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's get back to that 5.7 liter V8 under the hood. Chrysler has used this engine for a very, very long time, starting in the early 2000s, and they actually still use it here today in 2024. There were some teething issues early on, sure, but these engines seem to be pretty good by the 2010s. They figured out their cylinder deactivation issues and whatnot, and so I think this engine has been actually very reliable for the owner. Like I said, paired to it is an 8-speed automatic. Again, another fantastic part of the drivetrain. It's manufactured by ZF, who I think make very good transmissions in my opinion of all the ones that I've driven. So again, not too worried about that. Last but not least, the 300C is rear-wheel drive. Now, there were some all-wheel drive versions offered, but this is still the rear wheel. So how does it feel to drive the 300C Platinum? Well, it's a very cushy experience. The suspension is very soft, but not overly soft, not like 1970s soft where you'd hit a pothole and bounce for 3 blocks. It just feels refined, I guess. And I think this vehicle is really overlooked as a luxury vehicle, and we'll talk about that later on with my final thoughts segment. But I have to say, I've been happy with the driving experience, and most certainly the power. I think the 5.7 liter is definitely adequate enough for whatever application you want. However, if you want to go slightly older, there was the SRT that came with the 6.4 liter, and I have a review of a 2014 on my channel. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 2 physical gauges and a screen. Off to the left is my tachometer, off to the right is my speedometer, and in the center, I get that customizable screen that I can flip through several pages that Chrysler gives me. Really, really enjoy this. I like the graphics, I like the different colors, and it does feel a little bit nicer than some of the competition at the time because it has all of these different graphics and all of these different measurements. On the steering wheel, on the left, we have the controls for that gauge cluster screen, as well as our phone options and voice commands. And off to the right, we have our cruise control options. The overall steering wheel does feel nice. It is leather wrapped and it is heated, which I'm pleasantly enjoying on this 19-degree February Detroit morning. Off to the left, we have a climate control vent, and this is where we get our first look at the wood trim. This is real wood trim found here in the 300C. Absolutely love to see that, and that's part of the Platinum package. But down below, we have the headlight switches, gauge dimmer switches, and trunk release. Moving on to the door, we have 2 levels of memory seats with the set button in the center. And then we have our power mirrors, power windows, and power locks. Moving on to the dashboard, this is also genuine actual leather. This isn't some pleather, weird, cheapo brand. They really spent the money on the Platinum, and that's evident here on the dash. Really like the stitching up here. Then we have the clock. So I love that Chrysler does this. They've done analog clocks in their cars for a couple decades now, and it just adds a little extra something. What I don't like is the infotainment system. Although it functions fine, the heated seats and heated steering wheel are ran through the infotainment, and I just don't like relying on it for that. I wish that there were physical buttons for those features, but beggars can't be choosers. However, I do have heated seats, ventilated seats, and a heated steering wheel, as I mentioned, so very, very nice stuff there. Here's the backup camera. I think this is very subpar. However, I cannot be mad at it because this was still 2 years before the government legally required them. So this was still just a bonus feature at the end of the day. They didn't have to do this, and so it's nice to see that. Down below, we have our sport mode, hazard switch, back button, traction control off, volume and tune, and then our climate controls. I do love the fact that the climate controls are physical, and I like how clean and simple they are. Again, surrounded by real wood, which is nice to see. And down below, we have a real wood opening 12-volt outlet. All fantastic features. Moving into the center, we do have the shifter. It is a rotary dial shifter, which I've grown to be fine with. I like it better when it's positioned down here, unlike in the Ram products where it's up on the dash. So I don't mind it. You set it and forget it and call it a day. Then we do have cup holders. But before we do a big freaking bottle test, I do want to point out that they are heated and cooled, and the owner says that they work very well. Now, I don't have any Tim Hortons here to test the heated theory, but very, very cool that they gave you that option. No matter how gimmicky it might be, I still think it's neat. However, let's do a big friggin' bottle test, and it fails. I could have told you this years ago, but still got to try it here in the 2016 Chrysler 300C Platinum. Then we do get a center console with the aux, USB, and SD card inputs. And then we got to talk about the seats. Like I said, they are heated, ventilated, power and memory, and they are very comfortable. This is one of the cornerstones of the 300 that I really, really like. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats. So let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the freezing cold Chrysler 300C. I wish you could see the temperature. It is 18 degrees right now. Luckily, I do have heated seats back here. They're just taking a second to warm up. So I do have heated seats and vents back here, as well as 2 USB-A chargers. Sitting normally, I actually sit fine. A little bit down on legroom, but the seat is moved back pretty far. So I think with the seat moved up just a touch, it would be plenty of space and I'd be a lot more comfortable. So don't even worry about that. I do have nice leather on the door as well, and I do have a little pull-down center console, 2 cup holders, and some storage found in there. And I get to experience and enjoy the full skylight up above. Really, really like seeing that. Really, really nice touch. Let's hop out into the freezing cold and talk about the trunk and cargo space. Right around the back of the 300C, hit it twice, and it does pop the trunk, and it does pop it up. Oh, actually a decent amount. Look at that. Pretty nice to see. Once we are back here, nothing too crazy, although it is a pretty good sized trunk. This is a true American style trunk. We used to do huge trunks in our cars back in the day, and the 300C is holding on to that heritage. I don't have anything like crazy to talk about. I do have some hooks back here, 50-pound weight limit on these hooks, so unfortunately I can't hang my hammock from it, but that's okay. Nice 300 badge down there to finish it out. Love this big American style trunk. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I really like the look of the 300C. I think this generation, this sort of facelift, looks a lot better than the early cars. Now I still want to drive an early 300. I haven't done like a first or second year one, like a really, really early one. Still want to drive that, but I think this is just a more handsome vehicle. It's sort of grew into its ears, if you will. You ever meet a kid back in elementary school and they had giant flapping ears? But then as you grew up, the ears stayed the same size and his head just got bigger and then now he looks normal? That's how I feel about the 300C. It grew into itself. It looked kind of gangly in the mid-2000s, but now I think it's actually relatively handsome and reserved, and I like that a lot. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving a 2016 Chrysler 300C Platinum? I think this car is really overlooked, and there's 2 reasons for that. First of all, Chrysler as a brand hasn't really been hitting it. They made this and the Pacifica, and now they only make the Pacifica. So I think that's a big turning point, is that Chrysler just isn't hot right now. And they haven't really been hot since the 90s, in my opinion, and even then it was questionable. But I think the second reason is that these get a bad rap for being used and abused. I've always said that Chrysler products bruise like peaches. You have to treat Chrysler products like you would an apple. If you keep the apple in the protective cellophane, maybe put it in a lunchbox before you take it to work, it's gonna last until whenever you're hungry. But if you take a bite out of it and set it down on the table, it's gonna turn brown really quick. If you treat a 300C correctly and you get the oil change a little prematurely, a little bit quicker than what the gauge says, if you keep up with cleaning and maintenance, this car is going to be reliable and it's going to last you a long time and be comfortable through your ownership. But if you use it, abuse it, and put it away wet, it will punish you for it. And so I'm very fortunate the owner, Mike, of this particular 300C has done a very good job of upkeeping this car and keeping it maintained in proper working order. And so it's treated him properly back. It's graced him with thousands of comfortable V8 miles. I know that 300 SRT that I reviewed made it to, I think, over 200,000 miles before it was sold, and it's probably still on the road today. I just don't know the new owner. So it's all about what you put into it. If you put a lot of work into this car, you're gonna get a lot out of it. But if you just wanna buy it, abuse it like a Toyota, never let it warm up, never let it cool down, it'll bite you. But from where I'm sitting, this car is classy, it's luxurious, and I think it really embodies the heart of Detroit. It's honest, it's hardworking, and there's just something about this car's legacy. There's something about being in Detroit, imported from Detroit. Those old fantastic commercials is what I immediately think of, and that to me is just so cool. This car breathes and bleeds Michigan, and I'm happy to be here today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Mike for letting me take out his 300C. We were able to tack this on somewhat last minute. I appreciate Mike being able to accommodate me for that. He is absolutely awesome. He's done a fantastic job preserving this car, and I appreciate it very, very much. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.